Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome back to our Weekend with Wisdom series. And in this series, we have been discussing and reflecting on glimpses from the Vivekachoodamani. And guiding us through the text, we have Swami Anukoolananda ji from Chinmaya Mission. Hari Om Swami ji. Let us begin this session with an invocation. Sahana bhavatu sahano bhunattu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Swamiji. Swami Anukoolananda ji was tutored in spirituality in Chinmaya Mission by reputed scholars of Vedanta. Swamiji was bestowed Brahmacharya Diksha on 15th August 2000 and Sannyasa Diksha on Shivratri in 2013. Taking keen interest in youth empowerment, Swamiji serves as the Director, South Zone for the All India Chinmaya Yoga Kendra. Swamiji is now serving as the Resident Director at Chinmaya International Residential School at Coimbatore, which has been adjudged the best residential school in Tamil Nadu and recently the best residential school all over India of the year by the Education World magazine. Swamiji also serves extensively in the field of education training. Swamiji is a part of the board of the Chinmaya Education Cell that governs the running of its 103 Chinmaya educational institutions. Swamiji also serves on the board of management of the newly inaugurated Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth. Applying Vedanta to effectively enhance management practices, Swamiji has made many presentations in the areas of Indian ethos in management. Swamiji has been invited for lectures on Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Indian solutions to personal and corporate challenges at many institutions. Swamiji's vision is to see India as a nation full of dynamic youngsters, empowered with the knowledge and practice of Indian culture, serving the nation and leading the world on a path of true freedom and eternal happiness. So in this session, we will be looking at the Panchakosha Viveka in further depth. And without further ado, I would like to invite Swamiji to take over the session. Over to you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Thank you, Hari. So we had the first session in the morning today, and we continue with Panchakosha Viveka as the main topic for today, for this particular session. So even as we begin, let us start with the invocation verse. To chant for us, we have Smarab Shriram, who will be showing the verses and chanting the verses for us. Over to Smarab. We'll start with the first verse. Smarab, have to unmute Smarab. Sarva Vedanta
Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham.
So we salute the great Guru, Bhagavan Govinda Bhagavad Pada, who is the Guru of Bhagavan Adishankaracharya ji, who is the author of this text. We salute the Lord himself, Govinda, and we salute the Shastras, which reveal to us this great, amazing knowledge. In the morning, we saw the introduction to the Vivekachoodamani as a text which elaborately discusses so many most vital concepts of the Vedas. And in particular, it discusses in great detail the understanding of what is moksha. The Upanishads are moksha shastra, and as to the definition of Upanishads, it is said, Vedanto nama Upanishad pramanam tadupakarini sharirika sutradini cha. What is Vedanta? Vedanta comprises of the Upanishads and its ancillary explanatory texts like the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and all other texts which explain Vedanta. So for the beginners of Vedanta, Bhagavan gives us the Prakarana Grantha-s, and one of the great Prakarana Grantha-s that Bhagavan has given us is the Vivekachoodamani. So thus, Bhagavan starts with the basics, where Bhagavan explains the beautiful story of a student who, having experienced the world and not being satisfied, still seeking something greater, something higher, and knowing very well that this world cannot give what he seeks, approaches the Guru and seeks this great knowledge from the Guru. The Guru appreciates the student, and in praising the student, the Guru explains how rare it is that such a student comes to the teacher. The teacher diagnoses the problem of the student and points out to him that the problem that the student is facing is bondage. And this bondage is to what he is not. When we are what we actually are, we are at rest. But when we are different from what we are, then there is disturbance. So, Atma Swarupa is our natural state. But now all of us are wrongly identified and bound up in this identification. How did this false identification come about? It came about because of ajnana or ignorance. So then, what is the solution? The only solution for ignorance is knowledge. And thus, the Guru promises to the student that he would give this knowledge to the student. And when the student realizes this knowledge for himself, he'll be freed from that bandha and he will get mukti. Having said that, the Guru warns the student, saying that just knowing this knowledge intellectually is not enough. Intellectually knowing this knowledge is only to practice and internalize, assimilate, and realize this knowledge for oneself. So therefore, Bhagavan writes in the Vivekachoodamani, mere uttering the name of the medicine is not going to remove the disease. One should take the medicine for oneself. If one wants to enjoy the vision of the moon, then one should see the moon through one's own eyes. However amazing the poetry about the moon is. Reading the poetry and even memorizing the poetry is not going to give us the experience of moon. Like that, holding on to the words should not end the quest, but these words become the guiding maps, the path that one has to walk. And walking the path, one reaches the destination, which is personal experience. So then, what is the crux? The crux is to discern the difference between Atma, which is the true I, and Anatma, which is everything else. So thus, Bhagavan gives right in the beginning, what is the meaning of the Anatma? So let us read the verse now.
एषोत्तरात्मा पुरुषः पुराणो निरन्तराखण्डसुखानुभूतिः सदैकरूपः प्रतिबोधमात्रो येनेशितावागसवश्चरन्ति.
So this is the description of the Atma. The earlier shloka has the description of the Anatma, which we shall see once again now.
देहेन्द्रिय प्राणमनोमयादयः सर्वे विकारा विषया सुखादयः व्योमादिभूतानि अखिलं च विश्वम् अव्यक्तपर्यन्तमिदं ह्यनात्मा.
Idam hi Anatma. Whatever can be pointed out as this is Anatma, because I am pointing out something other than me, and therefore what is other than me cannot be the Atma. So thus, Deha, the body, the Indriyas, the Pranas, the Manaha, the intellect, and various modifications that they go through, the Vishayaha, the objects, the emotions that we go through, none of them are the Atma, because we can point out to them as this. Same way, the five elements are also not the Atma. The Avyakta, from where everything is created, that also is not the Atma. So the Supreme Brahman, the Self, is the Atma. What that is was just chanted. Now, so let us see that particular shloka. It says, Esha Antaratma, that which is the innermost being of all, that which is the Purusha, that which resides within, that which is the most ancient, which is before and beyond time. And yet it is fresh, it has no decay. It is of the experience, it is of the anubhuti of unrestrained, unlimited, uninterrupted joy and bliss. It is Sada Ekarupa, it is one without any modification. And it is experienced as the consciousness, as the bodha in every thought. And it is by that Atma's, that Brahman's direction, that our speech, our pranas and everything function. So this Atma, or I, who am this Atma, need to realize who I truly am and become free from the false identification to the Anatma. So thus, what we need to do is to identify in me what is the Anatma, what is the Atma, and how I can free myself. So that is where the description of the Panchakosha Viveka began. Here, Viveka is not just an intellectual exercise, but Viveka is to very, very, very sharply recognize and get the very clear conviction of who I truly am and who I am not. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Yo yat shraddhaha sa eva saha. Whatever is a person's conviction, that is what the person is. So if I believe myself to be the body, I go through the suffering and the experiences of the body. The limitations of the body, the mind, the intellect are mine. But if I am able to recognize and understand I am much beyond, I am much higher, I am the Atma, then the pursuit of this experience flowers in me. And I begin my journey, and that leads us to realization. So this deep quest, which leads us to the conviction, is born from Viveka. That Viveka understanding, I am not this body, and therefore anything related with the physical body is not me. I am not bound by it, and I seek what I truly am. That gives me Vairagya towards the world. That gives me Vairagya towards what I am not. I am no more bound by the fascinations of what I am really not. And I am inspired by the fascination of what I truly am, the promised experience of the supreme bliss, of the supreme freedom, eternal freedom that I can experience. I'm inspired by that. So thus, Viveka, Vairagya and Mumukshutva, that coupled with the qualities of the mind and the qualities of our body, to focus, to channelize our energies to attain that particular truth. Those qualities of the mind are called Shat Sampatti, the 6 wealth of the mind. So having these qualifications, the student continues to seek this knowledge through the Panchakosha Viveka, the discrimination of the Panchakoshas. So let us read these verses now.
कोशैरन्नमयाद्यैः पञ्चभिरात्मानसंवृतो भाति निजशक्तिसमुत्पन्नैः शैवालपटलैरिवाम्बुवापिस्थम् पञ्चानामपि कोशानाम् अपवादे विभात्ययं शुद्धः नित्यानन्दैकरसः प्रत्यग्रूपः परं स्वयं ज्योतिः.
So this Swayam Jyoti comes into our direct experience as us. When this Panchakosha Apavada happens. Apavada, the negation of the Panchakoshas to be us. When that negation happens, Nitya Ananda Ekarasa Pratyagrupa Param Swayam Jyotihi Vibhati. It reveals itself. So what the implication is, I am falsely identified with the Panchakoshas. And when I am identified with the Panchakoshas, my vision, my experience of my real nature as the Atma, that sambritaha, that gets covered. And because of that, Atma na bhati. Poetically, the Atma does not shine, but in reality, I am not able to experience my real nature as the Atma. So therefore, these Panchakoshas have to be understood and the Panchakoshas have to be negated to be me. And in that process, one realizes the absolute truth. The grain of rice is always there, but it is covered by the husk of the paddy. In fact, the shape of the paddy is exactly the shape of the rice grain itself. Yet, and the husk, the cover is so tight, and the truth is so well packed by these covers. Yet, with expert discernment, with a very sharp intellect, one has to uncover the sheets and realize that Atma spuratyayam jyotihi. That Atma which shines within has to be discovered. So now we shall start with what are the Panchakoshas and their definition and why they are not the Atma. How do they bind us? All of these are going to be the discussion of today's session. So let us start with the kosha, with the cover, which is the grossest. From the gross, we move layer by layer to the subtler and the subtler and the subtler. Pancha means 5, kosha means cover. So there are 5 coverings. So we start with the first covering, which is Annamaya Kosha. So let us read the description, the definition of the Annamaya Kosha. Being the grossest, it is very evident to all of us. So let us begin.
Deho yamanna bhavananna mayastu koshascha annena jivati vinashyati tadvihinaha tvakcharmamam sarudhirasti purisha rashihi nayam swayam bhavitumarhati nitya shuddhaha.
So this body, dehaha, this gross body that we have here, it is called Anna Bhavana. Bhavana, house. Anna Bhavana, house made of food. When we were born very, very small. From then, how did we grow to become this big? The only thing that went into our body from that moment till now is food. All the food that we have eaten has gone in to construct this body. So this body is called Anna Bhavana, the sack or the body built of Anna. It is Annamayastu Koshaha. It is the covering called Annamaya. It lives, Jivati. It lives, it sustains itself by Anna, by food. And Tadvihinaha Nashyati. And when food is not there for some time, the body perishes. So this is called the gross body. This is called the Annamaya Kosha. So what is it composed of? Tvak. Tvak means skin. Charma, the inner layer. Mamsa, mamsa, flesh. Rudira, Rudira means blood. Asthi, asthi means bones. And filling all of these is a lot of dirt. Purisha. Rashi, Rashi means a collection. It's a collection of all of these. In fact, the body is so dirty that even the surgeons want it clean before they do surgery. Purisha Rashi it is. And Nayam Swayam Bhavitum Arhati Nitya Shuddha. And that body, I am means this body, Swayam, this body indeed does not deserve, Bhavitum Arhati, does not deserve to be that which is Nitya Shuddha. The Atma, the self that we have talked about, which is the innermost of all, it is Nitya Shuddha. Why is the Atma Nitya Shuddha? It is Ekaha. The Atma or Brahman is one without a second. Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. So, in order to pollute something, in order to make something dirty, we need some other thing. Only a second material can make the first material impure. But the Atma, Brahman is that which has no other. And thus the Atma is Nitya Shuddha. But the body is not Nitya Shuddha. The body requires cleaning every day. Even a few hours the body requires cleaning. Otherwise, we ourselves will not be able to stand this body. So the question is, this Annamaya, am I the Annamaya? What happens because of this delusion? What happens is, with this body, we have the idea, Aham Mama iti pratitam shariram. This body, I imagine to be me. Swamiji, when did I imagine myself to this body? To be this body. I said, I am tall. I say, I am short. I say, I am aged. I say, I am young. All these references are references to this body. The body is tall, the body is short, the body is fat, the body is thin, the body is aged, the body is young, the body is a male, the body is a female. But I am the Atma, which is none of them. However, carrying this identity that I am the body, I affect myself with the conditions of the body. Ya esha moodaha vishayeshu baddhaha. So having taken myself to be the body, the only way to live life is to make the body comfortable and derive joy through the body. So I seek sense objects of the world. For the eyes, beautiful sights. For the nose, wonderful smells. For the ears, wonderful words or music. For the tongue, great taste. For the skin, comfortable touch. My entire life's occupation is continuously to seek things pleasurable to my body and at the same time to discard those that are uncomfortable to me. So therefore, what happens is the body and its enjoyment becomes my entire occupation. And yet what happens is that because of Prarabdha, sometimes wonderful things come to my life, sometimes things which are not favorable comes to my life. So either I am running towards certain objects or I am running away from certain objects. The moment I have certain preferences, that moment I have created no preferences for other things. The moment I have created an equation for joy, I have created equation for discomfort as well. The more I put conditions for my happiness, the more difficult it is to get happiness. And all these descriptions come from the idea, I am the body. These sense objects make us addicted to them also. And let us not think of addiction only in terms of drugs. Some people are addicted to certain comforts. Some people are addicted to certain kinds of food. Some people are addicted to, let us say, sweets. Some people are addicted to certain environments. I cannot live here. I cannot sleep there. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. I need this. I need that. It is all identification with the body. And thus, being occupied with the body, the person misses out realizing themselves as the absolute truth. So what happens is, deho yamityeva jadasya buddhihi. So the person who is the most dullest, for that person, the body alone is the eternal truth. So the entire life is only for the body. But for the person who studied the Shastras a little bit, or for the person who studied Shastras little more, for that person, dehe cha jive vidushas tvam ahandihi. For the scholars, they understand that they are not just the body. Yet, their identification with the body also continues along with their identification, saying, I am the Atma. I am the Atma, but I am the body also. Why? Experientially, we have not disidentified with the body. But only for a great Mahatma, Viveka Vijnanavato Mahatmanaha Brahma Brahmatma Mityeva Mati Sadatmani. That person has the experience that I am the absolute. So the question is, why am I not the body? Let us see this particular verse to understand the reasoning given.
पूर्वं जनेरपि मृतेरथनायमस्ति जातक्षणक्षणगुणो नियतः स्वभावः नैको जडश्च घटवत् परिदृश्यमानः स्वात्मा कथं भवति भावविकारवेत्ता.
So this body is not always existing. We said, Eshontaratma Purusha Puranaha. The Atma is eternal. But then, is the body eternal? No. Purvam Jareapi. Before it was born, the body did not exist. Mriteratha na ayam asti. After death, this body will not remain. So the body is not eternal. Jata kshanaha. The body came into being only at the time of birth. And then, how is it? Kshanaguna aniyata swabhavaha. And every moment, this body is modifying, changing. Jayate, vardate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati. The body goes through 6 modifications. Right? Asti jayate vardate. continuously it modifies. So that which is continuously modifying, who knows these modifications? So I knew my body as a child. I knew this body as a youth. I know this body as an adult. I know this body as an old man also. And thus body changes, but I was, I am, I will be. So therefore I am not the body. Na eko jadascha. The body is not one. The body has so many parts. But Atma is one without a second. Jadascha. Body is inert. The body does not have consciousness of its own. When life is there, body functions. When life is not there, body does not function. Second, the body is gatavat paridrishyamanaha. The body, like a pot, like a gata, is seen. That which is seen as this cannot be the seer. So therefore, the body, I am not. Swatma katam bhavati. Bhava vikara veta. How can that body be the Atma? The Atma is one which sees all the changes. The Atma is the knower. The body is the known. How can the knower and the known be one? How can the seer and seen be one? How can the subject and the object be one? So therefore, realize this absolute truth that you are not this body. And therefore, come out from this false identity that I am the body. How do I come out from the false identity that I am the body? One who is a slave to the body's temptations. One who is a slave to the body's cravings cannot go beyond the body. So thus, to master the body is a primary requirement. Let us not live to pamper the body. It is said, Shariram Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. This body is an instrument for performing, practicing dharma. This body is an instrument for us to realize the truth. Let us take care of the instrument, not to pamper the instrument, but use it as an instrument to realize the truth. So thus, to indulge in happiness, in joys of the body is to miss out on the experience of the Atma. So with self-control, with Dhamma, with Shama, by practicing vratas, one becomes master of the body. The body stops craving for our attention. And the body truly takes the position of being our servant. So the mind which has grown beyond the body, which has gone beyond the body, the mind can rise to higher levels of thinking. You and I, who are caught in the body, can only think in terms of the body. But when we have gone higher, we become available to greater understanding of ourselves as the Atma. So, in conclusion of this particular aspect of Annamaya Kosha, it is said, Moham Jahi.
Moham jahi mahashatrum dehadarusutadisho yam jitva munayo yanti tadvishnof paramam padam.
So thus, Bhagavan says, this moha, this delusion, jahi, give up. So what is this delusion? The delusion of attachment to this body, and it is through the attachment to our body that we relate to all other relatives. And like wife, child, etc., 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 is from the identity with this body. It is not said, give up the wife, give up the child. That's not the idea, but give up the idea that I am the body. And having realized this truth, people have gone and they have attained that highest truth. So it is said, Dehendriyadau asati brahmoditam vidvanahantam na jahati yavat. So that person who is not gone beyond the identity of this body, who is not gone beyond the identity that I am the body, and if that person wants to cross the ocean of samsara, it is like, so the person who wants to cross the ocean of samsara, and they are attempting to cross the ocean of samsara without giving up identity to the body, it is like a person wanting to cross an ocean by sitting on the back of a crocodile. We know the fate of a person who sits on the back of a crocodile or on the back of a shark, wanting to cross the river or wanting to cross the ocean. The very moment the crocodile or the shark enters the water, it will drown us and eat us up. So too the identification with the body becomes the greatest peril on the path of spirituality. So therefore, spiritual practices very necessarily advises the seeker, go beyond your identification with the body. Practice intense austerities by which we can master the body, and the body stops demanding attention and craving our identity with it. The next is Pranamaya Kosha. So let us see the definition of Pranamaya Kosha before we proceed.
Armendriya panchabhiranchitoyam prano bhavet pranamayastu koshaha yenatmavanannamayo nupurnaha pravartate so sakala kriyasu.
So here, the second kosha is called Pranamaya Kosha. Kosha, as I mentioned, is a cover. So which means one layer after another layer, covers and covers. Remember, the cover has to be bigger than the object which is being covered. The cover has to be bigger than the content. So the pranas are not inside the body. The pranas pervade the entire body. The pranas, the energy is present all over the body, pervading the entire body and also outside the body. So therefore, when we talk about each layer is more pervasive than the other layer. It is more subtler. And therefore, it is present everywhere. So this Pranamaya Kosha, the kosha which has or starts with the vital energy called prana, it includes the karmendriya, the instruments of action. So we have 5 instruments of action. One is vak, speech, pani, hands, pada, pada means our feet for movement, upastha, upastha, and payu, the organs of excretion and the organ of procreation. So there are 5 vital organs of action, and that along with the 5 pranas are composing the pranamaya kosha. So the prana, apana, vyana, udana and samana plus their upapranas, which help in various activities. For example, sneezing is because of one of the pranas. Yawning is because of one of the pranas. Of course, the main functions of digestion, assimilation, breathing, circulation, etc., happens because of the pranas. So this pranamaya kosha is the second cover. Prano bhavet pranamayastu kosha. Yena, by this pranamaya kosha, atmavan annamaya. The annamaya, this physical body becomes atmavan, becomes enlivened. If the pranas do not function, that moment the body stops functioning. Circulation stops, body is discarded. Respiration stops, body is discarded. Digestion stops, body cannot function. So the entire body is functioning because the pranas are functioning. And anupurnaha, the pranamaya kosha, anupurnaha, fills and pervades the entire body. Pravartate asau, the body functions, sakala kriyasu, it performs all the functions. So I understand I am not the annamaya. But can I not be the pranamaya? Because it is inside, and it is because of the pranamaya that all activities are happening. And therefore, I am not the body, I am the one which makes the body functions. So therefore, I am the director of the body. The prana is the director of the body. So therefore, can I be pranamaya kosha? So the answer to that is a resounding no. Why am I not the pranamaya kosha that is being described in this particular verse?
नैवात्मापि प्राणमयो वायुविकारः गन्ता गन्ता वायुवदन्तर्बहिरेषः यस्मात् किञ्चित्त्वापि न वेत्तीष्टमनिष्टं स्वं वान्यं वा किञ्चन नित्यं परतन्त्रः.
So the pranamaya kosha na eva atma api. This pranamaya kosha also cannot be the atma. Why? Because it is a modification of vayu. Vayu does not only mean the wind. Vayu means the vital energies itself. So all of these functions that happen are the modification of vayu. Are you the modification of vayu? Why cannot you be the modification of vayu? That is because ganta aganta vayuvad. Do you keep going outside and coming inside like the vayus? The vayu goes outside, the vayu comes inside. Do you go outside and do you keep coming inside? No. You as the Atma are ever present here. Second, is the prana able to recognize, is the prana conscious? One sign of being conscious is it knows what it likes and what it does not like. Yasmat kinchit kwapi na veti. The pranas na veti, does not know. What does it not know? It does not know ishtam and anishtam. The pranas do not know anything like what it likes and what it does not like. For example, food. The pranas have no preference for this food or that food. Taste is for the tongue, not for the prana. Whatever food is put into the body, the prana will digest it. Or if it cannot digest it, it will throw it out. It is an automated function that it does, that's all. When there is air, the prana breathes. What is the smell of that air is not significant for the prana. The fragrance or the foul smell is only until the nose. So the pranas neither know good smell nor the pranas know bad smell. The pranas do not know good taste. The pranas do not know bad taste. So which means that the pranas are actually inert forces. The pranas do not know itself or others. So therefore, basically, the pranas are not the Atma. At the same time, the prana is not Nityam also. The pranas go and come, leave the body, goes to the next body, and the pranas function paratantra. What is paratantra? As ordered by others. So if I want to breathe fast, I will breathe fast. If I want to breathe slow, I will breathe slow. If I want to take a medicine and slow my circulation, I can do that. If I want to increase my circulation, I can increase that. The respiration does not decide, I will do this. Respiration is determined by me. Digestion is determined by me. Circulation is determined by me. I can change it the way I want. So not having independence, the pranas only function. So which means the one who is the doer is different from that equipment which is doing it. So therefore, the car does not drive itself. The driver drives the equipment. And therefore, the driver cannot be the car. So the car is different, the driver is different. So too, I, the Atma, make the pranas function. I, the Atma, make the pranas stop functioning also. And therefore, the pranas are different from me. I am the Atma, I am not the prana. So therefore, let us move our inquiry to the next. The third is called the Mahavakya. So let us try to read what its description is.
Jnanendriyani cha manascha manomaya syat कोशो ममाहमिति वस्तु विकल्पहेतुः संज्ञादिभेदकलनाकलितो बलीयान् तत्पूर्वकोशमभिपूर्य विजृम्भते च.
So now we are coming to the third. And now the koshas are becoming subtler and subtler and subtler. The body was the grossest. The pranas are slightly subtler than the body. The mind, manaha, is subtler than the pranas. So the mind pervades the entire body and the mind pervades the pranas also. So what is the prana, the manomaya kosha, what does it consist of? Jnanendriyani cha manascha manomaya syat. So the mind and the organs of jnana, of perception. Pranamaya had organs of action. Manomaya has organs of perception, knowledge. So the eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin and the mind together, they form this manomaya kosha. So this mind is the seat of emotions. The mind is the seat of feelings. I like this. I don't like this. I prefer this. I don't prefer this. These preferences are born from feelings. These feelings are seated in this third kosha called the mind. Mama ahamiti vastu vikalpa hetu. So the mind, its functioning is to associate with objects. Is to identify different objects in different kinds of relationships. Some objects are favorable to me, some objects I don't like. These are dear to me, these are disliked by me. Why? That is based on past experiences, which is present in us as vasanas, as deeper impressions. But the mind is where we feel the likes and dislikes. So the mind identifies the objects as sanya, as names, etc. And what does it do? It is quite strong. Baliyan, the mind is quite strong. Because sometimes once the mind decides something very strongly, it becomes rooted in it. To change the mind is not very easy. The mind becomes dridha. The mind becomes stubborn sometimes. And the mind is very, very powerful because many times in our lives, we are driven more by our emotions than by our discernment and thinking. The emotions are very, very strong. And thus, many times we live our life based on our emotions. So this third aspect is called Manomaya Kosha. How does this bind us? Let us see how this binds us.
Panchendriyaiv panchabhirev hotribhihi prachiyamano vishayajya dharaya jajvalyamano bahuvasanendhanaihi manomayagnirvahati prapancham.
A wonderful picture is drawn by Bhagavan Adishankaracharya ji. He says this entire Manomaya is like A sacrificial fire is like a havan that is happening. In that havan, that fire is the mind. It is jajwalyamanaha. It is burning brightly. To burn, the mind should have basic wood. It should have basic fuel, which is the vasanas. So, as per my vasanas, my fire glows. So there is wood there and the wood burns. Now this is the wood, that is true. But for the wood to continue burning, I need to add ajya. Ajya means ghee. So what is the ghee that is added to the wood by which the wood burns? It is nothing but the sense objects of the world. Different kinds of touch, different kinds of sights, different kinds of smell, different kinds of sounds, different kinds of taste are brought into my experience. So who is the one who is pouring these experiences into the Havan Kunda? We should have the priests. So the priests who are pouring this ghee of the sense objects into the fire of the mind is the sense organs. The 5 sense organs collect prachiyamanaha. They collect the respective sense objects from the world and they pour that into the Havan pit as the ghee. So more and more the mind indulges in the world, more and more the mind starts burning more brightly. But let us remember, if the wood is not there, how much ever ghee is poured, the fire will go off. So what is the wood? The wood is the vasana. So as per the vasana, as per my inner tendencies. So if I like music, then when music is poured into my ears, I respond. I respond more. If I have taste for a particular kind of food, when that food is brought, I respond more. More the vasanas, more will be the response, and more will be the mind agitated and burning to experience the world. Lesser the fuel, lesser the wood, lesser the vasanas. Even in the presence of the world, objects outside, when I have no liking for music, let any music play, I will not be disturbed. Likes or dislikes are present deeply in us in the form of various impressions. And when respective impulses come from the world, then the matching happens and reactions happen in us. So therefore, to work on our vasanas, the lesser the vasanas, lesser the agitation. Lesser the agitation, more quietude is there in the mind. Quieter mind becomes a more effective tool for our sadhana. So to increase the vasanas is not the way of the spiritual path, but to decrease the vasanas. By karma yoga, by bhakti yoga, by jnana yoga. When these vasanas are burned, mind becomes quiet. But for now, the manomaya kosha is that which has the vasanas, and it responds to the impulse of the world Not only that, it goes on collecting the objects of the world, strengthening the vasanas. So this vasana, this mind filled with this vasana becomes the cause of samsara. So what does it do? It associates itself with different objects. With some objects, it creates the attachment as I like you. And then the mind with some other objects creates the idea I don't like you. Both are attachments. Only the kind of relationship is different. But the relationship is there. Whether I say I like you, whether I say I don't like you, the relationship is there. Indifference is the way to be unaffected by anything. Even if I hate something, that object will continue engaging my mind's attention. So the world continues to occupy us by being likable or dislikable. But when we become indifferent to both of them and rise above, they stop disturbing us. So thus, the mind also creates association and identification with the body. I love my body. I love others' body. I love my being. I don't like myself, etc., etc. Like this, the mind creates bondage, and very, very strong bondage with the body, with the mind, with the objects, with everything. Attachment. Asakti is born because of the mind. It is the nature of the mind to become attached. So the mind, indulging in the world, gets attached to the world. So how can we break the bondage of this mind? And second, am I the mind or not? So what is the understanding of who I am with respect to the mind? Let us see that now. Manomayo.
मनोमयो नापि भवेत् परात्मा याद्यन्तवत्वात् परिणामि भावात् दुःखात्मकत्वात् विषयत्वहेतोः द्रष्टा हि दृश्यात्मतया न दृष्टः.
So the greatest statement, the greatest logic is given in the last line. Drashta hi drishya atmataya na drishta. It is never seen anywhere that the drashta, the seer, is the same as the seen. Have you seen your own eyes? It is impossible. You may have seen the reflection of your eyes, because the subject need not see itself. The subject is oneself. But the mind is seen. I can know my feelings. Now I am happy. Now I am sad. Now I am inspired. Now I am depressed. Now I am angry. Now I am thrilled. I can see that. Now I feel great love. Now I feel great disgust. I know that. So therefore, I see the Atma, I see the mind, and the mind is the seen. I am the seer, therefore I am not the mind. Second, see the third line. Let's go back to that verse. Third line, dukkhatmakatvat. The mind has the tendency to become sad. But Atma is Sadananda Swarupaha. The Atma is ever blissful. So how can the Atma, which is ever blissful by nature, how can the Atma become sad? can light ever become dark? Can light ever have darkness? In the limited sense, can the sun have darkness? The sun is ever bright and the sun is self-effulgent. So darkness cannot be there for the sun. Like that, the Atma, which is blissful by itself, by nature, how can it become sad? And then third, the mind has birth and the mind has end also. Adya antavatvat. The mind has a beginning, the mind has an end. With perception, the mind is born. With perception, the mind ends. The mind is also parinami bhava. The mind also changes. That we are all very aware of. But the Atma is not parinami. The Atma is changeless. So therefore, because of all these reasons, I am not the mind. Yet, it becomes important that this mind has to be handled. Otherwise, the mind will bind us to this world and not let us realize the absolute. So how to handle this mind and purify the mind is the next verse. Manonama.
Manonama Mahavakyo
Vishayaranya bhumishu
Charatyatra na gacchantu sadhavo ye mumukshavaha.
So those who are mumukshus, who are desirous of attaining the highest knowledge, let them not unnecessarily engage the mind. Let them not involve their own feelings, their own mind in the world of objects. Wherever we engage the mind, that is where we will be. So Manonama Mahavakya it is. It is like a big tiger which is roaming the forest of sense objects. Do not enter that forest unnecessarily, because this mind will devour us up and we will not be available for the higher pursuits. So therefore, this is the first warning that is given. But how to purify this mind and how to use this as a tool to realize the highest? Because ultimately, the mind itself is a tool for both bondage, and the mind itself is a tool for liberation. So how to handle this mind is mentioned in this verse.
Viveka vairagya gunatirekat shuddhatvam mano vimuktye bhavatyato buddhimato mumukshoh tabhyam dridabhyam bhavitavyameva.
So thus, Bhagavan gives extremely clear advice. Bhagavan says, strengthen your Viveka. Viveka, rational thinking, discriminative thinking. Where has this world and its engagements taken me till now? Has it taken me towards liberation? Has indulgence in objects taken me towards satisfaction? The more I indulge in objects, it gives me diseases. Every pleasure I have had from the objects has always been limited. And it has not left me a better person, it has left me as a bitter person. This Viveka has to be strengthened. Second, strengthen the Vairagya, strengthen the dispassion. Love for the higher will help us give up the love for the lower. Shuddhatvam asadhya, develop purity of your mind. What is purity of mind? Purity of mind is detachment to the world, is purity of the mind. Attachment to the higher is purity of mind. Attachment to the body, mind, intellect, selfish desires is engaging the mind in impurity, taking the mind in surrender at the higher. In seeking the Lord is purity. So thus purify the mind and bhavatyato buddhimato. And when the mind is purified, may that intelligent seeker strengthen the desire for liberation, for spiritual seeking. And then that mind can be handled. Such a mind becomes the tool for liberation. So therefore it is said in the next verse, Tanmanashodhanam karyam.
Tanmanashodhanam karyam prayatnena mumukshuna vishuddhe sati chaitasmin muktih karaphalayate.
For one who has shodhanam, who has done purification of this mind by continuous prayatna. The prayatna is nothing but sadhana. So practice puja. Engage the mind in Bhagavan. Practice japa. Engage the mind in love for the higher. Read about the glories of Bhagavan. So thus, as the love for the higher comes, the love for the lower drops away. For such a person, muktihi karaphalayate. Kara is hand, phala is fruit. So that person gets mukti in their own hand. In the sense, that person who's purified their mind attains mukti. So how do they attain mukti is mentioned in the next verse.
Mokshaikasakya vishayeshu ragam nirmulya sanyasya cha sarva karma satshraddhaya shravanadinishtaha rajasvabhavam sadhunoti buddhehe.
So thus, what needs to be done is mentioned here. Moksha eka asaktya. By the love for liberation, by the love of attaining the absolute. Vishayeshu ragam nirmulya. The attachment, the desire for vishaya, for sense objects. Nirmulya, removing it from the root. It does not rise up again. In fact, the term used by Bhagavan is disgust towards every other thing. I don't want that. And then sanyasya cha sarva karma. Every other engagement for material seeking, I give up. In the sense, even the duties, even the activities that I perform as devotional duty to Bhagavan. No action is for strengthening my indulgence in the world. Every action is performed as purification, as seva to Bhagavan. So thus the mind becomes purified. Sat shraddhaya. And by having faith and conviction in this truth, that the absolute lies for me to realize. The world is not the absolute. The absolute is higher. And how does the Shraddha develop? Shravana Adinishta. By continuous listening, Shravana. Adi. Adi means listening to this knowledge. Adi means contemplating on this knowledge. And by trying to abide in Ishta, living by these values, the spiritual values. Once Rajaswabhavam dhunoti buddhehe, the mind's restlessness, the buddhi's externalization, the buddhi's desire to go outward becomes clean. And such a person becomes ready for higher pursuits. So this mind is very powerful. The mind is a tool for attaining the highest. The mind is the cause for bondage. At the same time, the mind is the cause for liberation also. Amrita Bindu Upanishad says, Mane eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Vivekachoodamani also has exactly the same idea. So therefore, turn the mind to become the tool for moksha. Practice Shravana, practice Manana, practice Japa, practice Puja, practice Vrata, and let the mind become God-minded, not world-minded. Not worldly, but let the mind become godly. So such a person will be able to attain the highest. However, we have seen we are not the thoughts. We are not the emotions. We are not the preferences. Preferences come, preferences go. Likes come, likes go, they also change. So therefore, I am not the mind. So I am not the body, I am not the pranas, I am not the mind. Can I be the next kosha? So let us see that now.
Buddhir buddhindriyaha sadham kartralakshanaha vijnanamaya koshasyat pumsas samsara karanam.
So therefore, now we are seeing the fourth kosha. It is called Vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanamaya, translated as intellectual sheath. Intellect is like the mind full of thoughts. But the mind is a seat of emotions. Intellect is a seat of thinking, ideas. Mind feels, intellect thinks. Intellect, therefore, engages in knowledge. It is the instrument of knowledge. Intellect learns. Intellect observes. Intellect analyzes. Intellect discovers. Intellect creates. Intellect judges. Intellect evaluates. All these are the functions of the intellect. So this mode of the mind is called Vijnanamaya kosha. Otherwise, mind is also thoughts, intellect is also thoughts. But two different modes. And this intellect, very, very interestingly, is now closer and closer and closer to the Atma. The body was the grossest, Annamaya. Little subtler is the Pranamaya. More subtler is the Manomaya. And now this is the fourth sheet. So it is closer to the Atma. So this Vijnanamaya kosha is very, 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 very powerful. More powerful than the mind. What it is, let us see a little more.
Anuvrajachet pratibimba shaktihi विज्ञानसंज्ञः प्रकृतेर्विकारः ज्ञानक्रियावानहमेत्यजस्रम् देहेन्द्रियादिषु अभिमन्यते भृशम्.
Oh, this mind is Anubraja Chit Pratibimba Shakti. Chit is consciousness, the Atma. The consciousness, the Atma, the self, reflecting its consciousness on Prakriti is the intellect's functioning. Vijnana Sanyaha, that equipment which is Prakritir Vikaraha, which is the modification of Prakriti. Matter and spirit, Prakriti is matter. Spirit is the Atma. So that which is the modification of matter, it is called the intellect. And its Shakti, it derives its presence from the Atma. But let's remember, grosser the equipment, lesser is the reflection seen. Clearer the water, greater the reflection. So too, higher the kosha, greater is the reflection of consciousness. So thus, the intellect engages in knowledge. Jnana kriyavan. And it is this intellect which creates the sense of I, the individual identity. Aham iti ajasram. Aham iti, it creates the idea of I, the ego. Ajasram, continuously. Every moment in our life, one thing we don't miss is our own identity. Except in deep sleep. Even in the dream, we carry for ourselves some kind of an identity as the dreamer. The intellect is functioning. And how is this identity created? The identity is created because of its association with the body. So, the intellect has its ideas on how the body should be. The intellect evaluates the properties of my body against the idea of what the body should be. So the intellect says, I am beautiful, I am not beautiful. Intellect sees the mind. Intellect also has its own idea of how a mind should be. So the intellect says, I am pure, I am not pure, identified with the mind. Intellect identified with the pranas says, I am healthy, I am not healthy. Every moment the intellect is analyzing, every moment the intellect is studying, every moment the intellect is engaging. In what? With the idea that I am this limited entity, this limited definition called ego. And the intellect also identifies the body as male, as female. It identifies the body with the profession that the individual does. So this individual identity is called jiva. Let's see a little more about the intellect.
अनादिकालो यहमं स्वभावः जीवः समस्तव्यवहारवोढा करोति कर्माण्यपि पूर्ववासनः पुण्यान्यपुण्यानि च तत्फलानि.
So having identified as the ego, aham swabhavaha, it has lived from long time back. Anadikalam. From when did this ego start? Nobody knows. It is called the jiva. Jivaha samasta vyavahara vodha. It is the fulcrum. It is the foundation for all activities to happen. Who did this? I did this. Who saw this? I saw this. Who spoke? I spoke. Who heard? I heard. I becomes the fulcrum for all kinds of engagements. Karoti karmani. Karoti karmanyapi purvavasanaha. Pushed by the past tendencies and character impressions. So the person who has the character to be a musician is pushed towards musical field. Person who has spiritual vasanas is pushed towards spiritual field. The person who has the idea of business takes to business. Like that, the intellect functions according to the character blueprint of their called the personality. And then according to their own prarabdha, according to their own destiny, according to they experience punya, the results of punya, and they perform apunya or papa, and they experience the results of papa. So this becomes the entire ego structure in that person. So this person from life to life, because this jiva is not restricted to one life. Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma, the Vedic culture that we know, is very unique because we have the understanding, not just the belief, the understanding of rebirth. With Bhagavan, it is called Avatara. With Jivas, it is called Punarjanma. So life after life after life, this ego, this Jiva, takes birth from one body to another body. And thus it experiences so many different experiences. Let's go ahead.
Swayam parichedamupetya buddhehe tadatmya doshena param rishatmanah sarvatma sannapi vikshate swayam swatah prithaktvena mrito ghatadivat.
So the intellect is a defining feature. So though we are truly the infinite Atma, the intellect considers itself identified with the intellect. The intellect sees itself not as the infinite Atma. Intellect sees itself as the paricheda, not as the unlimited. It sees itself as the paricheda or the limited. Paricheda upetya buddhehe. So the true I, who I really am, identified with the intellect, which assumes the sense of limitedness. I take myself as the limited, tadatmya dosha, because of the defect of identification, tadatmya. Fire by itself has no form. Fire is neither square, fire is neither the shape of a sphere, fire has no form. But fire on a stick looks like being in the form of a straight line. Fire on a ball looks as if the fire is round. The fire, so to say, assumes the shape of what it burns. So then we say a ball of fire. The fire is never a ball. But because of association and identification with the object, the fire, which is formless, seems to have a form. The Atma, which is infinite, because of identification with limited, the Atma assumes the idea that it is limited. The Atma is supreme. It is Param, and yet it assumes the false identity, Mrishatmanaha. The Atma being Sarvatma, Sarvatma Sannapi. Though the Atma is all-pervading, ever-present, though the Atma is present in everybody as everything, it vikshate swayam swatah prataktena. Though the Atma is one in everybody, identified with the individual intellect, the Atma thinks it is an individual. And identifying itself as an individual, the Atma experiences separateness from everybody. I am different, he is different, she is different, they are different. I am Indian, they are Nepalis, they are Americans. I am male, that is a female. All kinds of differences comes from the definition of I being an individual. But really speaking, I am the Atma. Beautiful example is given here of Mrado Ghatadivat. Every mud pot is made of mud. So wherever we see the mud pots, we should be able to see the same mud pervading all the mud pots. However, one mud pot takes for itself the idea that I am a pot and forgets the idea that I am really mud. With the identification as the mud, I am universal in all the pots. But with the limited identity as an individual pot, I am different from everybody. The mud has no death. Before the pot was created, it was mud. Even as the pot is existing, it is the mud. Even after the pot will be destroyed, it will be mud. The mud has no birth, the mud has no death, and therefore the mud has no fear. But the pot has birth. The pot is brittle, and therefore there is a fear of death. And one day the pot breaks and dies. Identified as the pot, there is fear. Understanding its own nature as mud, the pot has freedom. In the same way, understanding that I am the Atma, I become free. But identifying as the individual, I suffer from limitedness. I suffer from the false experience of fear, limitation, death, and decay. So therefore, the seeker is asked to realize the truth that I am the Atma. But can I be the Vijnanamaya Kosha? So that reasoning is coming right now. So let's see that.
अतोनायं परात्मा स्यात् विज्ञानमय शब्दभाक् विकारित्वात् जडत्वाच्च परिच्छिन्नत्वहेतुतः दृश्यत्वात् व्यभिचारित्वात् अनित्यो नित्ययिष्यते.
So the intellect we have seen its definitions. And the definitions very clearly point to us that it cannot be the Atma. First, Vikaritvad, the intellect, the buddhi changes. When I was 5-year-old, my understanding was different. When I am 25 years old, understanding is different. Now my understanding is different. My knowledge was lesser earlier. Now I've got a lot of knowledge. Earlier I was confused. Now I am clear. The intellect undergoes modification. Intellect undergoes change. I know that I was confused. I know I am clear. Clarity or confusion belongs to the intellect. It is the quality of the intellect. I know the quality of the intellect, which means the intellect is the seen. I am the seer. Seer and the seen have to be different. I am the seer. I am seeing the condition of the intellect. Therefore, I am different. Intellect is different. Intellect has modifications. I have no modification. Intellect is jada. Only as long as I invigorate thoughts can thoughts live. I enliven thought with the consciousness. Thought minus consciousness cannot exist. Thought is jada. Intellect is jada. Enlivened by life, enlivened by consciousness, it functions. So therefore, intellect is jada. I, the Atma, am Chetana. So therefore, Chetana and jada cannot be the same. Therefore, I am the Atma. Intellect is jada. Parichinna, the intellect is limited. Intellect considers itself individual and different from everything else. Atma is one and the same, all pervading. So intellect cannot be the Atma. Intellect is drishyatvat. Intellect is the seen. Vivekachoodamani. Intellect changes. Intellect is anitya. It is not eternal. And therefore, intellect cannot be the Atma. So thus, Annamaya I am not, Pranamaya I am not, Vijnanamaya, Manomaya I am not, Vijnanamaya also I am not. So here the student asks a wonderful doubt. Let us see that now.
भ्रमेणप्यन्यथा वास्तु जीवभावः परात्मनः तदुपाधेरनादित्वात् नानादेर्नाशयिष्यते अतोऽस्य जीवभावोऽपि नित्या भवति संसृतिः न निवर्तेत तन्मोक्षः कथं मे श्रीगुरो वद.
Oh Guru, please tell me this. You said something very, very significant. You said that the Jiva Bhava, individual identity, was created because the Atma identified with the Anatma. The Atma identified with the Anatma became Jiva. Now, this Upadhi called the intellect, you said is Anadi. The intellect that you spoke of, this Jiva that you spoke of, this individual identity that you spoke of as the Jiva is Anadi, beginningless. And I have heard that that which is beginningless has no end. So the intellect identified Atma is the Jiva. This Jiva is unborn, and the Jiva being unborn, I understand that it has no death. So when the Jivatva, when the individual identity will never die, will never be destroyed, it means I can never realize myself as the Atma. Because the Atma's identity today is the Jiva. And if this Jivatva is unborn, then that which is unborn will have no death. So this jivatva will have no death. Then where is moksha possible? Na nivarteta tan mokshaha. Katham me Shri Guru, how will I get moksha? Please explain. So the Guru answers the student's doubt with two answers most amazingly. This you have to pay a little more attention so that you get the concepts very clearly.
Samyak prishtam tvaya vidwan savadhanena tachrunu pramanikena bhavati bhrantya mohita kalpana bhrantim vinatu asangasya nishkriyasya nirakritehe naghate tartha sambandha nabhaso nilatadivat.
So we ask the question. The Guru says, "Oh Shishya, you are asking the question that the jiva is unborn. And then you are concluding the jiva will never die. First of all, the basis of this question is wrong. Why is the basis of this question wrong? Because jivatva itself is an imagined concept. Jivatva itself doesn't exist. What truly exists is the Atma. The Atma is the reality. The jivatva is imagined on the Atma. So that which is a figment of fiction. Where is the question of telling that it was unborn or it will not die? Example is given here. Nilatadivate nabasaha. The sky is seen as blue in color. So somebody comes and tells, "Sir, why is the sky blue in color?" What answer can we give? Is there something called the sky which is blue in color? It is just space. And this happens because of the dispersion of light. Sir, suddenly blueness is gone. Why did the blueness go? There was nothing which was blue, and there is nothing which has gone which was blue. That which was blue was also an appearance. That which you see has gone is also an appearance. So your question itself is invalid. This is the first answer that the Guru gives. Pramaniki na bhavati brantya mohita kalpana. Understand, pramaniki means factual. Na bhavati, it does not become factual. What does not become factual? Brantya mohita kalpana. That which has been imagined because of your confusion, that doesn't become factual. We can answer factual questions. It is impossible to answer those which are imagined, which are not factual. Sir, why did the pot die? Always the pot was mud only. Did the mud die? The mud did not die. Where is the identity of the pot separate from the mud? So therefore, pot is an imagination with name and form given to mud. Mud has always remained mud only. So for you who imagined the pot, there is birth of the pot, there is death of the pot. For the one who sees the mud, there was no birth, there was no death. That's all. In the same way, Jivatva is a imagination. So, to say that the Jiva is unborn and therefore the Jiva will never have death, will never end, therefore moksha is not possible. Such questions have no factual basis. This is the first approach. The second understanding, so beautifully Bhagavan gives, is the second reason. He says, just because something is unborn, it does not mean it will never end. Once again, I'll repeat, just because something is unborn, it does not mean it will never end. For example, if I ask you a question and you say, I don't know the answer. And if I ask you the question, from when did you not know the answer? For example, which is the capital of some country? I don't know. From when did you not know? I don't know from when I don't know. So which means my ignorance was beginningless. I don't know when I did not know. From the beginning I don't know. But let us say, as the quiz master, I give you the answer. So I don't know, from the beginning I don't know, has now ended, and now you start saying, I know. So that which was beginningless, the beginningless ignorance of that capital's name, that beginningless ignorance has ended. So therefore, the point is that which is beginningless still can have end. So Jivatva, which you consider as beginningless, still will have end. And when will it have end? It will have end when you realize your real nature to be not the Jiva, but you realize yourself to be the Atma. So having given this particular wonderful two approaches to the same question. One is, it has no factual basis. Second, if you take it that it has factual basis, then that which does not have beginning still can have an end. Certain things, only the Atma is beginningless and endless. Everything else, even if it is beginningless, has an end. So therefore, do not worry, moksha is possible to you. So having covered Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, finally we come to the last kosha, which is Anandamaya kosha. So let's see that now.
Ananda pratibimba chumbita tanuhu vrittistamo jrumbita syadanandamaya priyadi gunakah sweshtartha labhodayah punyasyanubhave vibhati kritinam anandarupa swayam sarvo nandati yatra sadhu tanubhrit matrah prayatnam vina.
So now we come to the last kosha, which is the subtlest of everything. So therefore, it is the closest, so to say, to the Atma. So therefore, Atma being the nature of bliss, this kosha intensely shares this experience of bliss as its nature. So very poetically, Bhagavan says here, Bhagavan Bhashyakara. When we say Bhagavan Bhashyakara, it means Bhagavan Adishankaracharya. he says this tanu, this sheath, this kosha is kissed. Chumbita tanuhu is kissed by the reflection of joy, bliss of the Atma. So therefore, this kosha exudes, this kosha's nature is to express ananda. Vrittis tamojambitaha. So this kosha expresses in the tamas, in the darkness. How? That we will see now. Ananda, the greatest experience of Ananda that any of us have had, is in deep sleep. Let's go back to this verse. It is in deep sleep that we have experienced the greatest bliss. We say, I slept without knowing anything. I was so happy. There were no objects, and yet there was the experience of happiness unlike any other happiness. And that is because it is closest to the Atma and the reflection of happiness without objects. This is not the bliss which is born from experiencing some object. It is a bliss which is natural. And in that state of deep sleep, where the mind is not present, where the intellect is not functioning, where external perception is not happening, it is darkness. And in that darkness of tamas, in that darkness of disassociation with external functions, in that silence, one experiences this Anandamaya Kosha very vividly. And it is from this Anandamaya Kosha, from this body, we have thoughts and feelings of happiness. Priya Adigunakaha. We have the experience of happiness of different levels. There is one level called Priya, another level called Moda, another level called Pramoda. 3 levels of happiness. Priya is when I think of a desirable object. I like something, I love somebody. When I think of them, I have a level of happiness. That's called Priya. Second, when there is an opportunity, and opportunity has come to experience that object. So let's say the person who I really, really love is going to come, is coming to meet me. Has not come as yet, but I know the person is coming in some time. I feel the thrill, greater happiness. What I like to eat has come in front of me. I have not eaten it, but it has come in front of me. The happiness is more. It is called moda. And in direct experience of that object, I feel the greatest happiness. The person I love comes and I am embracing that person. I feel that great joy. That is called pramoda. So different levels of happiness. All of these happinesses come from the Anandamaya Kosha, in which there is a reflection of the Ananda of the Atma. So Atmananda reflects in the Anandamaya Kosha, and from there it is reflected into the mind, which is the Manomaya Kosha. And when does it reflect as happiness? Sve Sveshtartha Labhodaya. When we get things that are liked by us. Everybody coming to us, we don't feel the happiness. Only when they are preferable to us, at the time when we want it, at that time we feel happiness. And how does this happen? Punyasya anubhave. Such joys come to us as the result of the punyas that we have done. And thus we experience this happiness. So it is said, Ananda, it is said, Atma's nature is Ananda. And this is Anandamaya Kosha. So, can I be the Anandamaya Kosha? How is it that I am not the Anandamaya Kosha? That will be explained in the next verse. We'll go to the next verse directly.
नैवायमानन्दमयः परात्मा सोपाधिकत्वात् प्रकृतेर्विकारात् कार्यत्वहेतोः सुकृतक्रियाया विकारसङ्घातसमाहितत्वात्.
So, the Anandamaya Kosha's nature is happiness. So, in our direct experience, we see sometimes this happiness is there, sometimes this happiness is not there. But Atma is Nitya Ananda. Atma is Nityananda. Anandamaya Koshas, Ananda is temporary. So that which is temporary cannot be the Atma. So therefore, I am not this Anandamaya Kosha. Naivayam Anandamaya Paratma. Sa Upadhikatvat. Because the Anandamaya Kosha has associations, has relationships, has limitedness. The Anandamaya Kosha is Karyatva Hetoho. It is seen as a result. It is seen as the result of punya. So when one does lots of punya, one experiences Anandamaya Kosha more. When one has done lot of papa, they experience Anandamaya Kosha less, which means Anandamaya Kosha is not experienced every moment. Atma's presence is every moment. So therefore, Anandamaya Kosha is also subject to Vichara. Sometimes more happy, sometimes less happy. So therefore, the Anandamaya Kosha cannot be the Atma. So therefore, I am not Annamaya, I am not Pranamaya, I am not Manomaya, I am not Vijnanamaya, and I am not Anandamaya. So who am I? Everything that I know of being myself, everything I am not. I thought I am this happiness which I am experiencing. That also I am not. I thought I am the convictions and the definitions which I have of myself. That's not what I am. I thought I am the preferences. That's my personality. I thought that I was. I am not. I thought I am the health. I am this body. That also I am not. So then who am I? So that is the question with which we are concluding today's session. So let's go to the question and then the answer.
मिथ्यात्वेन निषिद्धेषु कोशेष्वेतेषु पञ्चसु सर्वभावं विना किञ्चित् न पश्याम्यत्र हे गुरो विज्ञेयं किमु वस्तुस्ति स्वात्मनात्मविपश्चिता.
Oh Guru, sarva abhavam. Oh Guru, everything has been negated. Na kinchit pashyami. I see nothing here. The body I saw, it is not me. The mind I saw, it is not me. The pranas I saw, it is not me. The happiness I experienced, that also is not me. Now, I see nothing. So, Guru, whatever I now negated, Nishiddha, whatever I rejected, understanding that it is mithya, all the koshas, I thought it is me, all the Panchakosha, these 5 koshas, which I thought it was me, now I have understood they are all not me. And thus I have negated all of them. But now I don't know what other exists. So therefore, what is it that Vipaschita, that the great people of knowledge have known Vignayam? What is it that these great people of realization have realized to be themselves? So the Guru is answering that amazing question. Let us see that answer now.
Sarve ye nanubhuyante swayam nanubhuyate tamatmanam veditaram vidhi buddhya susukshmaya.
O Shishya, in and through the entire living, there is something which experience the Annamaya, experience the Pranamaya, the Manomaya, the Vijnanamaya, and the Anandamaya. So there is that one Sakshi, there is that one experiencer who is there. That experiencer experienced everything, but everything else cannot experience this. The Jada cannot see the Chaitanya can see the Jada. So that which is not experienced, but that which experiences everything else. Tam Atmanam Veditaram, that Atma, the great people with very purified intellect, with the subtlest of understanding, they have realized and experienced this Atma, which is the knower of all. What is this Atma? Let us see today a little bit, and in tomorrow's class, we will see that elaborately. But this is the most amazing verse in the Vivekachoodamani.
Jagrat swapna sushuptishu sputataram yosau samujrambhate pratyagropataya sadahamahmiti antaspuranne kadha nanakara vikara bhagina iman pashyannahandhi mukhan nityananda chidatmana spuratitam vidhi swametam hridi.
Oh, Shishya, last words. Vidhi Tvam etam hridi. In the hridi, in your own heart, Swam, in your own heart, Swam, as yourself. Vidhi, come to realize Tam, that. Come to realize that as yourself in your own heart. So what is that? It is Nityananda Chidatma. It is that Atma which is pure, eternal consciousness. It is bliss. It is Sat, Chit, Ananda as your direct experience as yourself. It is that which in the waking state, Jagrat, in the dream state, Swapna, in the deep sleep state, Sushupti, even in these 3 states, Sputataram, very clearly, it expresses. As what? It expresses as Sada, always, Aham, Aham, Iti. Not as the ego. Because the ego in the waking state is not there in the dream state. The dream state identity and the waking state identity is not there in the deep sleep. Yet there is this I which is present as the waker, it is present as the dreamer, which is present as I am present in all the three. And I shine as the consciousness, the experience in all the experiences. That I who am present in all the changes and yet I don't change. Aham di mukhan, from the ego to the body, the ego, the understanding, the thoughts, the emotions, the pranas, the body, all of these are changing. And in all these changes, I am the changeless and I am the knower of all these change. So that I exist. And that I is you, the Atma. And where do you realize it? You realize it in your own heart. Hridi is not the physical heart. Hridi is the spiritual essence in us. That is the Atma. So come to realize yourself as the end, as the goal of your seeking. And that you, the Atma, is the Atma everywhere. So that the Guru points out to the disciple the true Atma in this most amazing verse. More of it is going to be the discussion about the Atma in tomorrow morning's class. So tomorrow morning, we are going to see the beautiful direction, the beautiful advice which the Guru gives in the form of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So there we will come to know what this Atma is, which the Guru is pointing out to us. With this, we conclude today's session. Thank you, Hari Om. And thanks to Smarab for assisting in the chanting of all these verses.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Shall we take up any questions on today's session tomorrow?
Yes,
we
that
have,
would be fine.
yes. Thank you so much. Viewers, please keep your questions ready for tomorrow and we shall take them after the session, towards the end of the session tomorrow morning. So we shall meet again tomorrow at 10 a.m. And let us conclude this session with a prayer. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.